Mirangaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Hare Krishna, everyone. Want to touch on a new, I guess, expansion of the topic of jatis today. So last time we learned the mantra tere tereketa, tere tereketa, tereketa, or as it's written in taal and twos, tere tereketa, tere tereketa, tereketa. We had this whole discussion last class about it not being in Tisra Jati, but in Catur Jati, but you can see it in blocks of 3 and stuff like this. So that was just kind of introducing new concepts with jatis and how these start to really affect your knowledge of taal and how they start to become a powerful kind of, tool where you can really look at things and not only dissect them, but also use them to build and create new mantras from, loads of different perspectives and compositions and pardon me, using your taal and your jatis and seeing how they all kind of work together. But the description I gave before for the tereketa was still a basic description, and now that we're moving forward in the program, we have to actually have 2 different ways of looking at jatis. So in Carnatic music and in standard kind of Indian music theory, which also comes from and pertains to mridanga, we've been looking at jatis in a form that's called a Bol Jati, B-O-L, just like we have Bol here. But there's another type of jati called Laya Jati, or the beat, lay. And so Laya Jati is something completely different, where you're analyzing the jati from the perspective of how many beats, or sorry, how many, how do you explain this? Let's say, so how many bols or beats you're pronouncing in each measure of time between a clap. So it could be, 1, 2, 1, 2, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can keep counting up like this all the way up to 9. Now, it's unlikely in mridanga, from what I've seen, that you're hitting the mridanga 9 times in each, note space or matra. But it does get up to the point where you can hit it 5 or 6 times, which is quite interesting. And also, more of an advanced kind of playing technique. But this is like ultra important, because when we're looking at the tereketa, and it's interesting too, because the jati, you might almost think like we're counting, oh, well, that's the same as Daspaharatal. We're playing in 5s or Ektal or Rupak or whatever we're playing in. But the taal is different, because the taal functions and has a different purpose and a different clap pattern. So all we're talking about is you can hit the mridanga in one note, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's the jati. That's different from looking at a taal, which might have 6 beats, like lofa taal. That's a very different thing. Those 6 beats, each of them, you could hit the mridanga a different amount of times. So you could have a jati of 3 and a jati of 5 and a jati of 2. So that Laya Jati can always be changing in between the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces of the lofa taal. On the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or we could have 1, 2, or we could have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that Laya Jati, the Laya Jati, is a different perspective that we haven't been looking at. When we've been discussing jatis so far, we've been talking about something they called the Bol Jati. The Bol Jati is how the beats, so each of the matras, are overlain over the taal. And that's different from how many beats are in each matra, Laya Jati. So let's look at tereketa, tereketa, which we learned last week, and we claim that that was Catur Jati. And that's correct in terms of the Laya Jati, because we're having, and when we write it out in taal, we're having, 4 hits, teretere, ketatere, tereketa, tereketa. It's not, you don't have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hits or 9 in that. We're just going teretere, ketatere, tereketa, tereketa. And so that is Catur Jati in terms of the Lai, or how many, beats in that measure of time. So then we have the Bol Jati to look at. And the Bol Jati is how we're, so remember I said that we're looking at the block of 3, and a block of 2. So that block of 3 can now be determined to be a Tisra Jati in terms of the Bol Jati, or how we're overlaying. So we're overlaying in a Bol Jati of tereketa, block of 3, tereketa, block of 3, tereketa. So this is looking in terms of Bol Jati, and then each one we can look at in terms of Laya Jati. We have tere, keta. So Catur Jati in terms of how it's, each matra only has 2 or 4 hits in it. So when I write that out, you'll and then you'll, I guess, get a better understanding of that. But this is like amazingly important, and something that I'm just starting to understand more of. And these two concepts really weren't explained to me previously, and I'm realizing how important they are. Because when you understand the power of having a Laya Jati and a Bol Jati, it just opens up a whole new world of looking at the mantras that we already have and finding all of those jatis in both ways, and then being able to expand them out and have a whole new perspective on playing mridanga. So let's look at Tatini, 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 Tatini. And Tatini, 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 Tatini. This is what we would call, Tisra Jati when you're playing in Das Behera taal. But in this particular case, pardon me, again, we're only looking at the Laya Jati, because there's in each, Tatini 3, Tatini 3, Tatini 3, Tatini 3. But the Bol Jati of how it's overlaying is in Catur Jati, because we're not having groupings outside of 2s or 4s. We're having Tatini, 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 Tatini. So the overlay is in a standard configuration. So this is opposite of the other one, whereas tereketa, tereketa, the Bol Jati is Tisra Jati, or a mixed Jati, because we have 2 3s and a 2. So it's not a pure Tisra Jati, it's mixed. And then the Laya Jati is in Catur Jati because it's played in 4 beats per matra. And then the Tatini is the reverse, where the Bol Jati is now Catur, where the overlay is standard, but you have 3 hits for each matra, making it Laya Jati Tisra. That might sound pretty convoluted and confusing, but when I write it out, please try to look in the description and really understand this point, because it's super important and it's really going to take your mridanga playing to the next level, especially as we start looking at the mantras as they grow. There's going to be, you know, a lot of analysis of this, and also expanding and showing how mantras can utilize this power with the taal and then the 2 jatis. Okay, so today we'll start with a new mantra then. I'm sure most people are familiar with this or have heard of it. This will be all written out in the description. So this is going to be all open with gay. Now we're going to start learning how to mix between double speed and single speed, and also how to practice this mantra, which will also bring us to dagurugurda, which we'll probably cover today as well. So this is nere. So this nere is in double speed. This is single, nere. Normally this would just be ne, right? Ne, one hit, gay 1. Now we're going nere, so that part is in double speed. Nere, and then the rest is in single speed. Na, ja, there's a space, so the ja covers the 2 beats there. And I have a little bit of a bad habit. I bring my hands sometimes a little bit back if I'm watching the videos. So if you really want to be good at mridanga, you want to try to keep as close to the top of the mridanga when you're twisting your wrist for this thumb coming down. Because if you change this angle just a little bit, it still seems very similar, but the elbow just moves a little bit more, and you end up with a little bit of less of a efficient movement, and the index finger will splay a little bit more as well. So I'm still trying to reprogram myself to play more from the top of the mridanga. So I'm going to show that today, and you can see how that works. Much easier to play if you're a little bit more at the top and you're just twisting. So nere, na, ja, nere, na, ja, nere, na, ja, nere, na, ja, na, ja. So we'll chant Hare Krishna to that, so you can see how that fits. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gena ja, gena ja, gena ja, gena ja, gena So again, you want your thumb kind of, you know, in the middle of things here. You don't want it too high, too low. You don't want to be kind of overextended in either direction. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, the size of your hand will determine kind of where you can go. Trying to twist this wrist and getting this movement from tereketa now into a double speed is kind of the most important thing that you need to learn in mridanga. Staying at the top of the mridanga is going to help a lot as well. Making sure that you're not using your finger. So a lot of people will play like game. They'll start really splaying this out. And you can feel or think that you're kind of together, but you're not as together as you think. So you want to try to, you know, keep these fingers still loose, but not ultra separated, so that you start really coming out of your form. And you're twisting the wrist coming from the top of the mridanga. And it's all this gena, double speed, gena, gena. And we practiced this at the very beginning, where I gave you gena, this is one of the first mantras that I taught you, and this will help you to get this movement, which is super important for playing your dagurugurda. So there's some cool things that you can do with this. So you can go just the gena, ja, or you can go gena, ja, gena, ja. So we haven't actually learned this yet, but it's just cool to show these variations now. We'll go over this again later. So you're practicing gena, ja in order to learn this dagurugurda. So once you get to that speed, you can practice this gena, ja, and then practice switching between the single speed of the gena, ja and the double speed of the dagurugurdagur. By going gena, ja, and that gena, ja, gena, So that's really cool. And you can keep pushing that until it's, you know, faster and faster until you can't, and then you can just go into dagurugurda as well. Fun practice. Another way to practice this is gena, ja, and we haven't learned this either, but I'll introduce it. So this is deredere, and we've been practicing this in some mantras. So now you're going to use that in double speed, and it becomes guruguru, 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 deredere, guruguru, deredere, guruguru, deredere, guruguru, deredere, guruguru. So gena, ja, deredere, and you say gena, ja, guruguru, gena, ja, guruguru, gena, ja, guruguru. So like that, gena, ja, gena, So this is two different techniques where you're practicing the gena, ja in one hit, gurugur, gena, ja, gurugur, or you're going gena, ja, deredere, gena, ja, deredere. So those are two fun techniques. The third technique is ururu with 4 fingers and thumb, which can also be played with 3 fingers and index finger later. Another super important technique. A lot of these techniques you're seeing are starting to come together now, and especially as you get this gena, ja really sewn up, a lot of power is going to come from that, and you're going to learn this ururu as well. So from practicing gena, because you're practicing this in double speed, you're going to start to be able to do it without the mantra as guruguru, which is tereketa, or tereta, as we're going to be writing it, tereta. So you're just learning, you're just using that tere that you're learning from this gena ja without the ge. And here's a perfect example of Laya Jati, where you're playing 3 hits, tereta, tereta. So technically that's Tisra Jati and Laya Jati, but you know, and we'd have to see how we're using it in the mantra to look at the Bol Jati. But that's just a cool explanation of seeing, like, okay, so here we're playing, because in Prabhupada beat you're playing ja, ta, Catur, Catur, 2, ja, ta, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the Laya Jati is Catur Jati, but then all of a sudden you're playing guruguru, which is more powerful and has a different feel and is a little bit jolting. So why is it jolting? Because you're changing the jati. You're changing the Laya Jati to 3 all of a sudden. So you're going ja, ta, te, ta. Everything else is Catur Jati. There's guruguru, Laya Jati. So very different feel, very interesting. Ta, te, ta. Right? I never thought about it before. I didn't really know anything about Laya Jati. But when you start seeing it in those patterns, it's like, oh wow, like, you know, if you can do a lot of things by just looking at those Laya Jatis and being like, okay, what have I learned? How complicated of, you know, patterns and bowls have I learned? And what can I put in there that's even more cool or has more hits, you know? So very, very interesting stuff. So now you can go gena, jhauru, gena, So I don't think we'll get to, because that's a lot already, but let's just show how that segues into dagurugurdagur. Pardon me. Then in the next class, we will look at a much more expanded version and practice mantra of that I learned from Bhimar Karma. And it's, again, extremely useful and really helps, you know, practice with your hand pattern and just tightening everything up and really harnessing the power of this particular mantra. So let's just take the standard one, gena, ja. And notice this bottom kind of ticks away at a regular speed. If it sounds uneven and there's something wrong with the phrasing, then I'm going to write it out in taal so you can see exactly how it's phrased in the description. But it should be like gena, ja. Metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you should be able to, like, wherever that is, you can just come in. So you can just be hitting it like this, whatever speed. Gena, ja, gain it again, ja, gain it, ja, gain it again, gain it again, ja, gain it. And you hit it faster. Gain it again, ja, gain it again, ja, gain it, ja, slower. Gain it again, ja, gain it again, ja, gain it, ja. So like that, it's just this constant boom, boom, boom. Gain it again, ja, gain it again, ja, gain it, ja, boom, 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 boom. And this practices your lower hand, getting that speed when you go into double speed of just getting this loose, and a lot of, you know, people play mridanga. I'd say, I don't know, 90% of people playing mridanga haven't practiced this mantra, don't really know how to play it. And you can see because they're playing incorrectly here, and they're playing like this, and it's like it's hard to, you know, play this mantra for a long time at a desirable speed if you're tight and have the concept of using muscles and straight arms and wrists and stuff like that. So this just trains this hand to just have this looseness here, and it's just plotting along, boom, 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 boom. And the more you practice it, the looser you should get. It shouldn't become tight. If you're trying to play past your skill level, then lighten up so that you're not developing muscle tension, because that's kind of counterintuitive and counterproductive to what you're trying to actually produce with this mantra. You're trying to produce flexibility, speed, and power through being very loose and elastic, not tight at all. So how does this segue now into the next part of the mantra? So we've got gain it again a ja, gain it again a ja, gain a ja. Now when you play double speed, you're gonna watch, I'll show you how this segues. So you start playing in a different position in the mantra, and I'll show this in the description as well. Gain it again. Gain it again a ja, gain it again a ja, gain it. So as it starts to approach that speed, it no longer sounds like gain it again a ja, gain it a ja, gain it a ja, gain it again a ja, gain it a ja, gain it a ja. It starts now, that ja becomes the starting point. So now it becomes gain it again a ja, gain it 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 a ja, So this is, there's so much to be. So let's see here. Da. Now, if you're not playing properly, and I haven't for a long time and might still not be perfectly, but you can compress the da, gena, the gena, ja when you're playing double speed, so it's more like a da, dere, gena, rather than this hitting first and then this nere, gena, the gena. So when you're playing double speed, you can cheat and go da, dere, gena, da, dere, gena, da, gena, da, dere, gena, da, dere, gena, da, gena. So I'm not hearing the da, gurugur, da, gurugur. So this is da, gurugur, da, gurugur, da, gurugur. We're playing cheating. We're going da, dere, gena. At the same time, dere, gena, da, dere, gena, da, dere, gena, da, gena. Kind of sounds the same, but it's not practicing your hand, and it doesn't really fit properly for taal because you're compressing it, and it doesn't sound impressive either. So you have to be able to go da, gurugur, da, gurugur, da, gurugur. Notice I'm hitting this when my hand is not hitting the mridanga. And then the phrasing too. So a lot of people go dagurugurdagur, and that messes the taal up as well because you're breaking the structure. So it has to be dagurugurda, gurugurdagur. Da gurugurda, gurugurdagur. Da gurugurda, gurugurdagur. Da gurugurda, gurugurdagur. So the two das are actually in the how do we say it? They're in the because we're playing in the Bol Jati here of Catur, so in fours. So within this same 1, 2, 3, 4 matras, we've got dagurugurda. It's not dagurugur, skipping that, and da is not the part of the next, section here. So it's dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur. So let's count that and look. Genere, gena, ja. Genere, gena, ja. Gena, ja. Genere, gena, ja. Genere, gena, ja. Gena, ja. Now you could look at the regular speed of this mantra and say that the Bol Jati could be an argument for Tisra Jati, because we're overlaying in gena ja. Yeah, so 3, gena ja, gena ja, 3 and 3, gena ja. So it's the same as when we were playing tere, tereketa, tere, tereketa, tereketa. Same concept, but the see here. And that's in double speed. But yeah, so the Laya Jati is still Catur, because the nere is double speed, still considered as 1. Gena ja. But yeah, I would argue that the Bol Jati is gena ja 3, gena ja 3, gena ja. So again, Tisra, and a Catur at the end for a mixed Bol Jati. Which changes again when you're thinking of the double speed, because now we have dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, and it's a perfect, Catur Jati in both Laya and Bol. And there's nothing unusual about it. So we've got gena ja, gena ja, gena ja. Now that ja, gena ja, gena, that's where you come in for your dagurugurda. Gena ja, gena ja, gena dagurugurda. You can switch back and forth. Gena ja, gena ja, gena ja. Oh, should have come in there. We'll do one more. Gena ja. So you can practice going back and forth, or start practicing. Because if you're using this in kirtan, you might want to use a double speed, mantra using dagurugur for a certain section of it, and then you need to be able to bring it back into taal and bring it back into single speed and go up to double speed and be very comfortable with changing that while still keeping that same beat, without speeding up. So we'll practice this a little bit more. So da, now here you can play closed or open. Bablu is, he likes it to be closed, and other people have taught it open as well. Depending on how fast you're playing, it can open up as well. So Bablu will be happy if you're playing. But then when it gets really fast, then you can start, because it's harder to keep it closed on every hit. Also, when you're playing, it's nice, just as an artistic merit, to sometimes have it closed, sometimes have it open. But we are playing gena, ja, gena, ja, gena. So they are open in the original mantra. So putting these as, you know, dagurugurdagur, and having them all closed is more of an artistic merit than a necessity per se. I would say when you're playing at slower speeds, practice playing closed, because playing closed trains your hand even better than being open. It's harder to do, and you get closer to the mridanga as well. And then if you want, when you're playing faster, to have it open, then that's fine as well. So the phrasing of this, dagurugurda, dagurugurdagur, dagurugurda 1, gurugurdagur 2, dagurugurda 1, gurugurdagur. So there's two pieces. That's the back end. Dagurugurda, 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 dagurugurda. That's the first piece repeated. Dagurugurda, 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 dagurugurda. Then gurugurdagur, 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 gurugurdagur. So together, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur. You really need to lean into that to get the right. So Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur. So the beat lies on the dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, guru. It's not dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda. It's totally different. So it's dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, guru, dagurugurda, gurugurdagur, dagurugurda, So like that, and we will continue to go over all of this next class and expand on this mantra, but that's more than enough for today. So Hare Krishna.